especially in the ADP days, in the World Bank days. We have over the years trained so many managers, because these managers are always, they always send foreigners to us to manage the agri sector. But now AMTI was set up to train managers to be able to manage the agri and rural development sector. And we have been doing that over the years, since 1982 when they started the retraining, up to now, and we still look forward. And this is based on 3 platforms: through research, special studies, through policy seminars that we are going to
like the one you're doing,
this week.
We're going to find time. We're going to find time to see what you're doing in the Ilorin Kwara State. Thank you very much, Dr. Ladoni. There, Harris, that's the cassava conversation. So next time you eating gari or you hooding eba, think about what happened to the leaves. That is another value chain in the business. I think I'll be hearing more of that. But on Thursday, when these folks get together and show us the business side of cassava using the leaves. Over to you.
Well, Bosin, it's clearly a case of waste not, want not. Who really would have thought that you can actually use cassava leaves as feed for, like you said, ruminant animals, the goats, your cows and your sheep? It's always a constant issue getting that particular feed for that particular sort of animals, because we've always talked about poultry and fish feed. And it also clearly shows there's an improvement in research and development. So yes, kudos to such institutions. But Business Morning continues after this. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. It's decision day of the 2-day rate-setting meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee in the nation's capital, Abuja, and there's a general consensus that the committee will maintain status quo. Of course, the committee is faced with an economy which has contracted year on year for three successive quarters, and inflation that has accelerated for 9 months in a row. On the same basis, we had the National Bureau of Statistics yesterday releasing GDP figures for the third quarter, contracting 2.24% from 2.06% as recorded in the second quarter of 2016. Inflation is at 18.3%. Continued its upward trajectory, and of course other issues with regards to the economy will be in focus, particularly the foreign exchange market that has seen immense pressure since the relaunch of the interbank foreign exchange market by the Apex Bank in June, and of course the launch of the forwards futures OTCs market, the FMDQ OTC securities. So all of this of course will be part of what will form the deliberations at the meeting today. Now, at the same time, let's also remember that the committee has constantly called for the harmonization of monetary and fiscal policies at all of its meetings since the beginning of the year, when the central bank governor actually talked about the fact that the economy was tending towards recession. He constantly called for synergy between the monetary and the fiscal authorities, because the monetary can only do as much with regards to the tools that it has to ensure proper balancing of the economy, but the fiscal authority also has a large part to play as well. he particularly mentioned a budget implementation, and of course up until now we've seen about slightly over 750 billion naira actually spent in terms of capital expenditure, which is a very key component of growing the economy. How much money is put into the economy to revamp it and to restart it, to get it out of recession? You have to spend your way out of recession. That's what most analysts have continuously talked about. And all of this, again, will come into focus as this committee holds its last meeting for the year. And, of course, Channels Television has got that on tap. There's a live coverage of the announcement of the decisions reached by the committee after its meeting. That will be anytime after 2:30 p.m. We've also got a live pre-MPC analysis from our studios in Abuja with Channels Business News Editor Bosun Omofaye. That's starting at about 1:48 p.m. And, of course, post-analysis after the decision have been announced by the CBN governor, who's also part of the rate setting committee. We'll do a post-analysis of the decisions, even though most across board there's a general consensus that the rates will be kept unchanged, but would like to hear the reasons and of course the developments that led to that particular decision being reached. And there's a panel that will be doing that with Bosun much later in the day from the nation's capital, Abuja. But let's quickly take a look at the poll for the week. It's on the show's Twitter handle at BizMorning, but you can also let us know your thoughts via email. That's businessmorning@channelstv.com. So we're asking, what is your outlook for the final monetary policy rate decisions in 2016? Is it policy rate tightening, policy rate easing, do nothing, or none of the above? Bosun, you'd like to weigh in on this one with me?
Yes, Harriet, so you know the outlook for the monetary policy today is really tight. Yemi Kale's Bureau of Statistics perhaps spoiled the party for Emefiele and the rest of his team a little bit 24 hours ago with the GDP numbers, as it were. Broadly speaking, you hear that from him a few minutes ago here on the program, that we need to grow 4% to be able to get out of recession in 2016. Right now, we're about 1.5% on aggregate. So we have a lot of work to do. The first quarter he was talking about is just about 6 weeks before we go to the end of it. Will we be able to manage the seasonal end of year consumption? Will people be able to, will Nigerians be able to spend their way out of this recession? Will the government at the center, fiscal side, be able to spend out of this recession in 2016? That will be a very difficult, it's a tightrope now for the central bank here to work on. But if you look at our biggest economic neighbor, Ghana, yesterday cut an interest rate by 50 basis points. That was very surprising to everyone. And they're looking at inflation trending down and saying, look, they need to stimulate things moving forward. But if you look at the policy rate in Ghana, that's still very wacky, 25.5%, even after you saw 50 basis points haircut yesterday, just as something I got like last night here in Abuja. You know, you get a 50 basis point haircut from the Bank of Ghana, which is the central bank. 25.5% for Ghanaian economy is still really difficult. If you look at the commodity prices, Ghana is also producing oil from its Jubilee oil fields, with the problems it has with energy, electricity, and what have you. Commodity prices being very tough so far in 2016. Therefore, if you look back at Nigeria, we have a bit more of a delicate balance here between what we're trying to do with agriculture, non-oil services sector, what have you, and oil on the other side that went down massively in third quarter. So today is going to be very difficult. How would Emefiele decide? If you look at what FBN Quest sent out as an investment note early today, that the central bank is expected to do nothing. I'm sure many Nigerians will be looking at, yes, interest rate is very key, but what they would want the central bank to talk about and to act on will be the currencies market. And I'm not sure if that will be part of the conversation today. Most likely, after today's MPC decisions and those announcements in the afternoon, the central bank before the end of the year will most likely tinker with some of his policy decisions as far as the foreign exchange is concerned and try to ease things a little bit further? Harriet.
Well, Bosun, I know you're going to be keeping your eye on that. You and the rest of the crew in Abuja are closely monitoring this particular meeting. And, of course, you'll be giving us a pre-MPC analysis, as I announced, of course, at 1:48 p.m., thereabout, and, of course, post-MPC analysis. But, Bosun, thank you so much for joining me on the program today from our Abuja studios. Let me let you go so you can hurry on down to the CBN office there in Abuja. Bosun Omofaya, Channels Business News Editor and co-anchor Business Morning, joining me there as we take off on a very special presentation today, of course, of the MPC's decision, which will be coming up much later. We've been talking about the state of the economy, and that's still going to be the focus I'll be having now with my next guest. That's Philip Anigbe. He's a research analyst with ARM Securities. Good morning, Philip.
Yeah, good morning.
It's great to have you join me on the program. You've listened to, of course, the Statistician General, Dr. Yemi Kali, talking to us, giving us more flesh to the GDP numbers that were released yesterday by the Statistics Office. You've also heard Amaka talking about the components, that's the non-oil and, of course, the oil and gas sector's contribution to the markets. But what do you make, for instance, of this latest data that was released by the CBN, by the Statistics Office, I beg your pardon, on Monday?
Yeah, I think the latest data, what it does really is to put another layer of pressure on the CBN to more like consider monetary policy accommodation going forward, especially now that it's having its two-day policy meeting ongoing. But then you recall that in the past, the CBN has clearly stated, or more like